Good evening. I'm Salud, and this is part 2 of my Necromancer story. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I'll link it in the description box below. So where we left off, you were just leaving court after being there for the first time as the Empress's counsel, and now you're on your way to the royal baths. Let's begin. Pushing open the heavy oak door to your rooms is harder than it was this morning. Sybil greets you as you approach. On your vanity there's a steaming cup of black tea, a honey pot, and a pile of dainty cherry scones. Skeletal hands unclasp your jewelry and unlace your corset. You nibble at the offering of sweets and tea at your vanity. Silk pads are moistened with shea butter and patted onto your eyelids to remove the pigment. Gems and flowers are carefully plucked from your hair. The tea is aromatic, and you can taste that someone in the kitchens added rose water to the blend. With your face scrubbed clean, you begin packing your floating basket for your bath. There's soap that smells like lemon drop candy, a shampoo bar made from coconut and mint leaves, along with scented oils and skin treatments in glass jars the size of thimbles. A blue silk robe is slipped over your shoulders, and you make your way to the bath. Being escorted by your guards makes you feel precious, safe, and valuable. The armor echoes down the hall, and you see people stare at the sight of their animated bodies. You shake your head and smile. The dead are the safest people in the world. They open the door to the bath for you. There's no one else in the pool, and the steam from the water curls up invitingly. Pink flowers with massive petals float easily across the water, and heavy brass trays at the edge of the pool are laden with squares of cheese and fresh grapes. You shed your robe and dip a toe in, then sigh with relief as you wade to deeper, warmer water. Your basket of ablutions floats beside you. The salted water is buoyant, and you float leisurely on your back. The domed ceiling above is painted with the forest scene. There are spiderwebs gleaming with dewdrops and moths fluttering around the leaves. There are red mushrooms on the ground and gnarled tree roots. It's beautiful, you think, savoring a few more breaths before you sit up and begin your ablutions. The dust from the road washes off in waves of lemon-scented bubbles. Your skin feels soft and soothed, scrubbed and new. You rinse your hair and float, closing your eyes and savoring the weightlessness. Tomorrow is so far away, and you have the joy of sleeping in a new feather bed. Whatever the morning has in store will be completely new. Hard work earned you this post, and the influence and comfort that comes with it. The bath serenades you with the sound of gently lapping water, and as your body warms, it becomes the same temperature. It's hard to tell where your skin ends and the bath begins. You smell the clean, sweet fragrance of your soap, while your eyes drink in the details of the forest mural painted above. The gentle inhale and exhale of your lungs is rhythmic, and you savor the feeling of warm, scented air moving in and out, warming your body. Your breath goes in, then the exhale, and the water ripples quietly with each movement. You float for minutes or hours. Time has no meaning since your obligations for the day are done. Wrapping yourself in a soft robe, you pad quietly back to your room. Sybil tucks you into bed. It's warm after the chilly walk through the halls. My covers are scarcely pulled over you before your body grows heavy and still. Sleep comes easily, effortlessly. Waking invokes a long, delicious stretch while sunlight streams in through the high bedroom window. The feathers in the mattress sank overnight, leaving you feeling like you're burrowed into a warm nest. You roll to your side, drinking in the sight of your new room. The fireplace across from your bed has been lit, with a bright copper kettle set upon the grate above the flame. Slowly, on your own time, you rise and sit up on the bed. The sensation of your vertebrae stacking on top of each other while your spine straightens. The door opens and your attendant walks in and lays a tray over your lap. It's a fruit plate, the colors cheerfully waving to you as you blink down sleepily at them. There's bright blueberries and strawberries sliced into thin strips, yellow mangoes and peeled nectarines. A warm cheese scone sits on a plate beside a pat of butter that's been whipped. The scent of it curls up towards your nostrils, warm and baked. There's also an envelope that bears the Empress's seal, tucked underneath the plate. The wax seal gives way to the letter with a satisfying pop. The Empress has chosen a metallic wax that shifts between blue and green, imprinted with a jeweled crown carried on the back of a moth. My new Necromancer, the letter starts. Please join me in my gardens once you are dressed. Take your time, as mornings do not agree with me. Bring only yourself and the news you acquired on your travels. We will discuss your role at the palace and get to know each other. I keep court with many people, but never a stranger. Before you come, please ask yourself, how might I best serve the Empire? Lowering the letter and sipping at your fragrant tea, you ask yourself this question. Necromancers are rare as diamonds, and only one serves in the Empress's court. With breakfast settling in your stomach, you dress while questions dance through your mind. What will the Empress be like in private? You've heard of her gardens, but each rumor about them is wilder than the next. People say it's filled with gold statues that are really the bodies of people who crossed her. Or it's filled with venomous snakes and spiders that slither between the roots of rare plants. You shiver as Sybil runs a brush through your hair. But when you look in the mirror, something stills within you. The cut of your clothes is dark and reassuring, with the proper seals and sigils for people to tell at a glance you're a necromancer. You're washed and polished for the palace, and your accessories are flattering without being flashy. Your signet ring catches the light beautifully when you hold your chin pretending to be deep in thought. You smile as you preen at the vanity. For too long you've depended on a hand mirror while traveling. Walking through the palace halls, you savor the sound the heels of your boots make, clicking against the polished marble floor. The path to the Empress's gardens go up and up, through the gallery, the throne room, and the public gardens, which are filled with people picnicking in their best dresses and suits. They look like flowers themselves, soaking up the morning sun. You reach the highest room of the tallest tower. An attendant dressed in fine blue silks with gold stitching greets you. The door behind him is carved from deep brown oak, with flowers curving along the sides. You have to tilt your head up to see the tops of the petals. You present the Empress's letter, and when the heavy doors open, a sea of green and the rush of fresh water greets you. It smells like rain and flowers. Vines heavy with colored blooms hang off the stonework. There are statues made from rose-colored marble flecked with gold that catches in the sun. The attendant asks you to remove your boots, and when you walk, the thriving soil squishes under your toes. You move towards the sound of the water, carefully brushing aside the flowers that touch your shoulders. You feel like a black shadow creeping through the wilderness. The Empress sits in the shade of a large tree, smaller somehow without her crown. Her hair is down and her robes are simple. She could be mistaken for a scholar. She's hunched over a book with pages the size of a dinner plate. Her eyes flick over the lines of text rapidly, sounding out words. Your Imperial Grace? You venture, taking a step forward. Oh! You feel a touch guilty as she pulls her head out of the pages, her concentration lost. You bow, then sit when she invites you to do so. You make polite conversation about her garden over tea and an assortment of pastry, blueberry scones and lemon curd. She tells you that when the sun sets, giant moths flock to the lanterns, and after the rain, the spider webs shine with dewdrops. There's a raising I need you to do, she says, quietly and without any questions asked. You nod. Raising the dead isn't just your profession, you enjoy it. Though your curiosity is piqued. Lemon curd bursts on your tongue as you bite into a scone. With your cooperation secured, the two of you spend the next hour reading poems to each other and dissecting their meaning. You tell her the tale of Magnus the meat dancer, a necromancer of legend who raised cuts of beef on his dinner plate to either the delight or mortification of his dining partners. Legend says they found puppet strings sewn into the cuffs of his shirts when he died, but you choose to believe he was a very talented necromancer. Oh, please, says the Empress, tell me of another. I hear the library at the necromancy school is vast and varied. They say you have a history all your own. You think, pouring her more tea while you consider who might be best. Sophie the Charmed? She was the romantic. Or James the Guide, who was a great hero. You take a sip of tea, savoring the feeling of warmth and spice hitting the back of your mouth, and decide a personal choice is the best one. After all, it's been very informal here in her garden. James the Guide popularized the idea that necromancers are obligated to care for the risen, you start, even ones they do not raise. His gentle philosophical ideals are credited with the rise in demand for portable embalming tools, more emphasis on physiotherapy for the risen, and counseling them on their new life. You clear your throat and pause to sip the aromatic tea, hoping you don't sound like a lecturer. The story goes that one sunny day, James took a walk along the riverbank. This was in the era of ashes, under the third emperor. Necromancers had freedom, but faced disdain from the public. James was combing the shore, looking for a pearl necklace another student had lost. He came across a stone cliff wall with a deep crack. It was dark inside, and the crack was no wider than a cooking pot. He heard voices inside asking for help. James called out, and they answered. The crack in the cliff wall wasn't wide enough for him to pass through, but the people told him they had been looking for rare mushrooms in the caves when there was a collapse. 4 of them had died. They passed the body parts through to James at his request. The story says it took him 5 hours to convince them to do so, for once they learned he was a necromancer, they were distrustful. He raised 2 corpses, lashing them together with bits of his dark robes. He raised 2 corpses, lashing them together with bits of his dark robe. They went for help while James carried water to the trapped people from the river with his hands. He stayed until the last of them were rescued. He was hailed as a hero, and he took his 2 corpses back to the necromancy school. Legend says they became skilled masons and carved many of the statues on the school grounds that are still there today. Some scholars argue that James's story is propaganda from that era to make people more sentimental towards necromancers. When you wrap your fingers around your tea mug, it's grown cold. The Empress never took her eyes off you, and you wonder if your admiration for a figure from history has made your telling better. The weight of her gaze feels heavy and reassuring. She reaches out and takes your hand, helping you to your feet. "We must go at once," she says. The grass is soft under your feet as the Empress leads you through the gardens. The hanging flowers brush against your shoulders as the bushes grow denser and thicker. You stop in front of a marble fountain as tall as you are, nestled near lilac bushes. Water pours down into the grounds below, like a real mountain spring. The Empress presses a single petal on a peony flower carved into the base. The water slows, trickles, and then stops completely, revealing a darkened secret passage in the base of the fountain. You can't see past the second step, but the Empress doesn't hesitate. She takes your hand again, her smaller fingers squeezing yours. The stairs are just narrow enough for the 2 of you to walk side by side as you descend further into the mountain. You've only been in the palace for a day, and already you're having secret adventures. As if she senses your thoughts, the Empress's hand squeezes yours. You walk in silence, side by side. The rhythm of your steps is soothing. With nothing to see but darkness, your mind focuses on the feeling of your clothing brushing against your skin, the air in your lungs, and the sensation of a warm hand encasing your own. It's mesmerizing, and when your foot finally touches solid ground, you swallow a gasp. Torches illuminate the cave walls as the 2 of you walk forward. There's a long hallway warmed by torchlight stretched out in front of you. And there's a tug at the edge of your psyche as you move further in. It grows with each step, soothing and reassuring you with its presence. The tug begins to take a shape of its own, and you feel that it's many things, many quiet people. There are resting corpses within the walls, and you feel their silhouette in your mind. They're peaceful, laid flat in comfortable caskets with arms crossed over their chests. You see the hallway opens into crypts, and the feeling, the awareness, it envelops you. It's like a blanket, knowing they're all here, safe and ready should you ask. Reassurance and security bubble up from within you, making your lungs feel light and your heart beat slower. You catch a glimpse of the Empress's face, illuminated by torchlight. The gentle curve of her smile grounds you, bringing you back to the present, to the secret crypt. You recognize the names etched into the entombments from your history classes, long-dead emperors and great heroes who shaped the world. You realize now why they're hidden. The wrong necromancer could wreak havoc with the contents of this hallowed place. There is a body encased in glass at the end of the crypt. Huge lily flowers litter the steps leading up to the case, Looking in, you recognize the late Empress with a gold crown resting atop her head. "Please," the living Empress beside you says, "my mother, please, can you raise her? I need her advice. I have looked into your heart and I know you to be kind. You have only just arrived and haven't been corrupted by the politics of the palace. Please." Who are you to deny an Empress who shared a secret with you? You nod and reach out your hands. You'll raise her for a moment, long enough for a conversation. You breathe, savoring the crest of your exhale. The chill of the room settles on your skin, and you feel the brush of your soft clothing against you, insulating you. Your ears sharpen, and you hear the ambient noise of this place. You are more than your thoughts. You are body and breath. You inhale, swelling your chest with air that has been untouched by all except late emperors. You exhale, and the tension you carry leaves with you. The room grows dark as your eyes drift closed, and you reach for the space between life and death. When your eyes open again, you see the late Empress waiting for you. Her robes blow through a wind you do not feel, and her hand reaches for your own. Her eyes are sad, and she leans to you, closing the gap. It's an easy thing to reach out and to take her hand and pull. She clings, and you know in your heart she wants this. It's easier than raising dogs, and they always want to come back. You emerge, breathing and living and feeling the air in the crypt and the Empress's hand squeezing your shoulder. The glass casket lid is lifted and her mother blinks awake, rising up from her slumber with the care and grace of royalty. You move to the side. There's a swish of beautiful robes as the Empress rushes to embrace her risen mother, and the chill of the crypt is washed away with the love between mother and daughter. The two of them hold hands and speak of politics and tension, and the living Empress's smile grows wider with each word. Suspecting their conversation is above your station, you take a long walk down the crypt hallway, busying yourself reading the names engraved in brass on the entombments and listening to the flicker of torches. You feel a rush of necromantic magic leave you and turn to see the late Empress go limp as death takes her once more. There's a sharp clack of the glass casket lid being lowered, and you politely look away when you see the Empress is wiping at her eyes. "Thank you, Necromancer," she says. "My mother deserves her rest, but I needed her wisdom to rule. It was my hope that my art and science would strengthen the empire," you say with a smile. You offer her your arm, and she gladly accepts. The two of you ascend into the light, step by gentle step. In the weeks that follow, you become an invaluable member of her court, and the portraits painted of the Empress throughout the years feature you by her side, the faithful Black Shadow. The end. If you're still awake, I'm sorry I couldn't put you to sleep with this story. I have another story where you're gathering ingredients to make a magical perfume. I'll link it in the description box below and at the end of the video. I hope sleep finds you soon. Try to focus on your breathing. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, I'll wish you a good morning. I'd like to give a special thank you to my beta readers, Erik and Apoc. They did such an amazing job, and this story was really improved for their contributions. Also, my good friend Bosesbjorn, who took every photograph you see on this video, every beautiful cemetery. I'm so lucky he let me use his pictures so you have something to look at. Thank you for listening to me and letting me share my story with you. Rest well.